Hello, hello. Can you clap your hands? Hi, guys. How are you? We are setting up here to go live on YouTube. So let's see if we've done it. Hello, guys. Yeah, we're talking about the history of poverty, right? So I just I would love it for you guys to just participate with me here. So let me see if I can just set up these invites for people to see what we're doing, and we're doing this on Facebook. And today we're gonna do one more. We're just continuing with our Zimbabwean series here. So give me 2 seconds. Um, Poverty in time. Poverty over time. Is what's the catchy one? I don't think there's a catchy thing to say here. I'll just say history. Just how poor are you, right? Just how poor are you, right? So here we go. I think that's better. Just how poor are you? Okay. So welcome, guys. This is what we're doing. So today we're going to transition into the history of poverty. We've been talking a lot about Zimbabwe, and we're not yet done, right? So I have 4 or 5 things that I want to say, which, in my opinion, are important, right, for those of us who are concerned about the well-being of many people who are from Zimbabwe, including ourselves, um, and the area in general. So I proposed, I think, in my first or so presentation, that the first thing is the history of money, that people need to know what the history of money, what it is, how it works, and how it starts not to work. And I think it's very important. And it's so sad to me that many people actually don't understand the history of money. And I think that we should know it. And I think that it helps me to know it. It gives me a certain level of peace. Or yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's certain level of peace. It's almost like if you are unwell and you go to the doctor and the doctor says, "I don't know what's wrong with you." That's not good, because it drives you crazy. But if you go to the doctor and the doctor says, "Yeah, you've got this," at least you get that. I know what it is. You get that relief of, I know what I'm suffering from, and then maybe you can find a solution. But if you don't know, it's harder even to find the solution. So my opinion is the history of money is important if we're going to talk about what's the best outcome for Zimbabwe as a country. And the next thing is understanding the history of poverty, because I think sometimes people, we have certain expectations of life which may not be, borne out by anything but just current circumstances. I just think it's important to know what the history of poverty is, because it kind of helps you to see and not despair too much. It gives you hope. Um, and it doesn't take that long anyway to talk about the history of poverty. And I think you need to know the history of the founding nations. I think that's what I've said. The founding nations of Zimbabwe, you're talking about Russia, Cuba, countries with socialist, communist ideas, which were behind the liberation struggle. And you need to know as well, I think the countries that had uh, almost capitalist countries like England and the UK and the USA. You want to know the histories of those countries, because they kind of tell you, give you an understanding of where certain ideas in Zimbabwe came from, and why people try to do them, or why people still do them, etc. And it gives you it gives you a good feel of what's going on, right? And then lastly, I think I've said this before, the history of the people of Zimbabwe themselves. You need to know, where did they come from, what did they do, and that will help. In my opinion, this is my opinion. This is why I'm just shaping, so I can say what I think Zimbabwe actually needs. And if you have your suggestions, let me know. So, in my opinion, those are the 4 things that people need to know. And then yeah, they're not small things to know. It's very hard. So now we're here, we've done the history of money, so now we're here, we're doing um a history of poverty, right? So I'm just gonna tell you what the history of poverty is like. So first thing you wanna know is what is poverty, right? So you can go to World Vision, you can go to the United Nations. I chose to go to World Vision, right? I know some people don't like World Vision, right? I went to World Vision, but their definition is nearly the same as what the United Nations has. Come up with your own definition if you think these are bad. But World Vision says it's a severe lack of material possessions that compromises the quality of a person's life, right? That's the World Vision definition, and it's pretty similar to the United Nations definition. I'll let you Google that one for yourselves, and you see what the difference is. But they're basically the same. They're all centered around how much material goods and services one person can have, and what access they have to, how much access they have to other things like that. So they might put in the income of a person, etc., and they have a measure which is called the poverty line, whereby they estimate how much the average person in a country earns. Which is, I think the poverty line is about something like $1.90 per day. If you are earning less than $1.90 US dollars a day, they would be saying you're living under the poverty line. But it could be $4. But the point is, it's just there is a number that they have, and that's how they measure if a person is moved from poverty into severe poverty into an okay or acceptable level of material wealth. But since you don't like that definition, some people, I wasn't happy with the definition. So I'm assuming other people were not happy. But so I came up with my own 7 markers of poverty, right? Which I thought these are great markers of poverty. So I'm going to show you those ones, right? So I think if you go to any society and ask yourself these 7 things, measure these 7 things, the more you can tick off these things as, yep, this is at a good level, this is at a good level, the less poverty you have. Okay. So you don't have to have all these things. I think you just have to have some of them, right? For you to say you are not poor. So the first thing, I think, your access to resources, right? So I'm in line with World Vision there. So your access to food, clothes, shelter, that's a how much access do you have to those things? That's a measure of poverty. If you don't have access to good food, so if you don't have access to enough foods for you to be healthy, if you don't have access to clean water, if you don't have access to clothes and all these things, you're looking at, in my opinion, you're looking at a sign of poverty. And I apologize, there's no comma between the water and clothes. But yeah, those are signs of, I mean, in the PowerPoint that I'm presenting, you see it says food, water, clothes, and shelter. There should be a comma there between food and water, but this is just a guide for me to be able to talk, guys. So don't fuss too much. And then the next thing here, health, right? So your health and your life expectancy, I think this is what I'm looking at. So things like life expectancy, infant mortality rate, your ability to fight diseases, okay, or to stay healthy, that sort of thing. If just simple infections can lead to death, to me, that's a sign of poverty. And sometimes it's malnutrition. So you can see there's a link there between these things. So you go to any society and you measure what's the infant mortality, what's the life expectancy, and if you see those numbers down, then okay, this is a poor society. Okay. So, for example, the life expectancy in the Middle Ages in the UK, I think, was around the Middle Ages. You're looking at around 1500, 16. I think 1600 maybe is too late, but maybe in the 1300s, 1400s, 1500s, the life expectancy people was like 32 years. Okay, so that's that tells you most people were very poor in the UK at that time, and of course it was a feudalistic period. Yeah. So anyway, let's go on to the next one. Social mobility, which is your ability to move from worker to boss, from commoner, from just being a commoner to being part of the royal people or something like that, or for you to be able to stop being a slave and be a master, or for you to move from slavery to being free. Those things, those are signs of poverty, right? If you are not able to move, it means you are very poor. No one wants to give you those things, and you're living in a poor society. If the majority of people are down in that place where they can't move out of poverty. So, and then and the fourth one I thought of was access to information, right? Your ability to access information. So something like news, ideas, developments, um, things like that. If you don't have access to those things, or if you have less access to those things, not that you should be having those things, but having access to them, meaning that you can make the choice to access those things and have them with less effort rather than with too much effort. If you can do that, that means that if you can't do that, it means that you are in a poor place. You are living in a. If the majority of people can't do that, it means that the poverty level is higher. These are my standards, right? So number 6, your ability to travel, to move from one place to the other. If you can make that choice easily within that area and just move around, or even maybe move out of the area, to me, that's another measure of poverty. Maybe it's not a fair one to some people, but I think the ability to move or travel is a good measure of poverty. And then your entertainment choices, how much access to information, sorry, how much access to, or what's the array of leisure choices you have. Do you want to go drink? Do you want to go watch soccer? Do you want to go dancing? Do you want to just go fishing? Or do you want to, just go far away for a holiday, etc? Do you want to just watch TV, listen to music? All these things, they're just leisure time choices, okay? Or how people spend their free time, not time where they're working for food, clothes, and shelter. If the majority of your time is spent worrying about where your next meal will come from, to me, it's a sign of poverty, right? If you have limited choices, right, that you can make about how you spend your free time, to me, that's a sign of poverty. Okay, let's go back. The last one here is um, your ability to change your beliefs and to back social norms and not be in trouble, right? So if you can just basically say, look, I'm not getting married, I'm just going to be single, and I really don't care, I'll do my own thing and do that. Or you say, I'm not going to go to church, whatever, I don't really care about going to worship the ancestors on the mountain, or saying some prayers to some god in heaven, etc. If you tell yourself that you don't want to do those things, and you don't get into trouble, or you decide to change from this belief to the other belief and you don't get into trouble, to me, that means you're living in a society that's not poor. You're living in a rich society. Right. Okay. So now this is the task. Okay, this is where I was going with all this. This is fairly simple to do, right? So if you were to get yourself a time machine and start flying back in time, right? Go to 1965, 1963, 1955. See the young Joshua Nkomo giving speeches, giving speeches about nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. And it's just being very emphatic and all that, right? Go back in time, go past Nkomo and go see Lobengula and go past him, see Mbuyane Handa, Sekuru Kaguvi, Chamunuka, go past all these people. And when you're going past them, you stop your time machine, you get out, you go and talk to the people, you ask them, what's going on, guys? And you ask them, you just look at their lives and ask those 7 questions. And something interesting will happen, right, as you do that, going through time, right? If you go back, even if you let's say, even if you're doing it in England, right, go past Queen Victoria, go past Queen Mary, um, way back into the time of the Roman invasions, and at each step you just stop and talk to the people during the time of Queen Victoria. Do your survey with my 7 questions, and do your survey with my 7 questions with Queen Victoria. if I do that, right? If I do that in my imagination, of course, because there's no time machines, right? But if I did that, there's an interesting thing that happens. So this is the interesting thing that happens. So like say for example in China, if I were to move back in time to say maybe if I went back 40 years, I would find that between now and 40 years ago, I would find that there are 850 million people who were stuck in poverty. But because of some changes in China, within 40 years, 850 million people are no longer poor, right? And if I did the same thing between 2020 and 2010 in India, right, I would find that in those 10 years, 273 million people have moved out of poverty, right, in India, right? And this is very interesting. This is where I'm trying to get to, right? So let's put this over here. So this is where I'm trying to get to, right? So we're looking at the past, the present, and the future, right? So the question is, let's see, what am I doing? Yeah. So over the last 1,000 years, let's say there's a point at which if you go back in these countries like China and India, if you go back 10, 40 years, right, you keep seeing all these people getting out of poverty in a way, right? You keep realizing so many people are going to get out of poverty in 40 years. Don't worry. 850 million people of you will no longer be poor in 40 years. 273 million of people of you will not be poor in 10 years. This is what you would say to the people in India when you get there. That's what you would say to the people in China when you get there. You'd say, yeah, I've seen that in 40 years, you guys, 873 million of you guys will not be poor anymore, right? And materially, right? And if you tick those 7 questions, you'd find that you're ticking off more things for them in the future, but in the past, you're ticking less, right? But that's within those 40 years. But the interesting thing that happens is if you go past now, let's say maybe if you go 500 years back, you tick maybe 2 things for them, 2 out of 7, right? And then you go 1,000 years, you would still tick 2 out of 7. And then you go another 1,000 years, you'd still tick 2 or 3 out of 7. That's basically it, right? So for thousands of years, the poverty has just been level, very level. So the poverty that was available during the time of Shaka Zulu and during the time of Machowan, etc., all these people, if or Chaminuka, right? If you went back into time, right, into those days, the majority of people, wherever you are, like you can look up these things, it's already there online. Generally, people have been poor and things have not been changing for thousands and thousands of years. People have been stuck within the same social strata. That's why you find like in India, they have a very rigid class system and untouchables and all that. They were not moving. Everybody was born where they are and they stayed where they are. So the fact that now we have people, just jumping out of that poverty, jumping out of that social status and moving into a place where they are free to do so many things is new. Okay? It's new and it's a novelty and it's something to be celebrated, something to be happy about. We are happy that we're at this time in the world where we don't have to be stuck with where we were born. We can actually work hard and move out of where we are and move into certain different areas. We can change what we believe. We can change where we live, given certain, certain things which, with the assistance of others, that we can actually be able to do. So the question is, why is it that in these last few years, like 10 years, why is it that 273 million people can move out of poverty when for 1,000 years, no one was moving out of poverty in India? Why is it that there's such a change? Why is it that there was such a change? 873 million people over 40 years moving out of poverty, but for 500 years and more, no one was moving out of poverty. How could 40 years make a bigger difference than 500 years? What's happening there, right? That's the question. So in my opinion is that we need to look at that. And the main point, I think I've already explained that poverty is just a human condition. We need to look at those places where there was those changes, because that's what we want in Zimbabwe. We want to see those changes, people experiencing that jumping out of poverty. For those who want to stay in poverty, thinking about these things doesn't matter. But for those of us who want to get out of poverty, who want a better material conditions, who want people to have access to information, who want people to have good health, people to have the capacity to travel, the capacity to choose how they spend their leisure time, how they spend their how they can be able to move out of a certain social level strata to a different one. Those of us who are interested in that, we can look at some case studies. We can look at different countries that have done that. And I think I'm going to do one or two countries, maybe Singapore, Taiwan, South Korea. I'll make a choice and we'll just look into it and see how it happened. And then we'll get out of our history of poverty, because there isn't much to see here. Okay, unless someone has an interesting take on what I've said. So thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate every visit. Please, I know that I'm getting 1 or 2 views, or 10 or 15 sometimes. If you like what you've seen and you want to comment, please, guys, do comment. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. So I'll stop the stream. Yeah, today I'm not singing because I'm actually, running late. So I'll stop the live stream.